How do you destroy an empire of 10 million people with fewer than 200 soldiers at your disposal? This isn't a question of tactics. It's the formula for the most audacious heist in history. At the heart of this adventure was a man who was neither a general nor an aristocrat. Francisco Pizarro, an illiterate, illegitimate son of a colonel, who had seen nothing in his life but poverty and the pigs he herded as a child. He had no money, no noble name, no support from the crown, only one thing, a predatory instinct for weakness and the boundless audacity of a desperate man. He looked at the mountains of Inca gold and understood, to take everything, one must not wage war. One must deceive, convince an entire people that you are a god sent to shape their destiny. This plan was not born in the jungles of the New World, but in the dust of the Spanish province of Extremadura. There, on the steps of a church, legend says he was abandoned by his mother, a simple servant. His father, the respected Colonel Gonzalo Pizarro, never acknowledged his son. The boy was a nobody. An outcast from birth, he never learned to read a single letter, but he perfected the art of reading human greed and fear in the eyes of those who considered themselves his betters. Every day was a lesson in survival. From childhood, the world showed him its cruelty, denying him the most basic things, a name and a right to bread. And he learned the most important lesson: if the rules aren't made for you, break them. Or better yet, write your own, in blood and gold. Spain at that time was a powder keg. 7 centuries of the Reconquista, a war for their own land, had ended, and thousands of men who knew only how to fight found themselves on the streets. Impoverished, proud hidalgos for whom labor was a disgrace and war was the meaning of life. The empire found a place to channel this volatile mix across the ocean. The New World became a safety valve for releasing pressure. This was not colonization, it was exile for the most dangerous and ambitious. The air was thick with rumors of cities of pure gold. This was not simply greed, it was the only social mobility in a world where birth determined everything. There, thousands of miles from the king and his laws, only one right prevailed, the law of the strong. And each man decided for himself what he would be, a god or a dead man. His first step toward greatness was paved with betrayal. When Vasco Núñez de Balboa, his commander and the discoverer of the Pacific Ocean, was accused of treason, it was Pizarro, his most trusted officer, who personally shackled him. Cold calculation over loyalty. But the real game began later, on the tiny island of Isla del Gallo. Starvation, fever, and despair. His men were dying, ready to mutiny and turn back. A ship arrived from the mainland with an order to cease the expedition. It was the end. Then Pizarro walked out onto the wet sand, drew his sword, and traced a line. To the south, uncertainty and mythical gold. To the north, safe destitution. Choose, he challenged. Only 13 men stepped across the line after him. With this gesture, he didn't just defy fate. He filtered out the waverers, keeping only those who were as mad and hungry as he was. He possessed no aristocratic, hypnotic charisma. He had something more powerful. He was a mirror. In him, every impoverished hidalgo, every escaped convict, saw their own insatiable craving and long-held resentment toward the world. Pizarro didn't promise riches, he promised justice, his own unique brand of justice, where former slaves became masters, and gold was merely a tool to humble those who once looked down on them. His main trick was absolute, almost insane confidence. He spoke of the Incas' golden cities not as a myth, but as a tangible fact waiting to be claimed. He knew how to turn rumors into intelligence and despair into fuel. He didn't recruit soldiers, he forged a cult, where he was the prophet and gold the holy grail. But even the most convincing prophet needs investors. Behind him stood not gods, but 2 very earthly partners, Diego de Almagro, a soldier to the core, and Hernando de Luque, a priest with a fat purse and a moneylender's eyes. They were shareholders in his audacious venture. However, this company soon faced a powerful adversary. The governor of Panama, Pedro de los Rios, saw Pizarro not as an explorer, but as a dangerous criminal. An upstart of no noble birth, leading an unauthorized expedition, ignoring orders, and potentially dragging the crown into a ruinous war. It was Rios who tried to sink the enterprise from the very beginning, prohibiting any assistance. But Pizarro made an unexpected move. He went all in, bypassing the governor's authority, and went directly to the king. His first war wasn't for gold, but for the right to seek it, and he waged it not in the jungle, but in the corridors of power, where treachery was valued more than bravery. In Toledo, amidst silk and gilding, he looked like a wolf in a sheepfold. An illiterate soldier, smelling of sweat and jungle, he tried to explain to the court intriguers what they couldn't comprehend. An empire of pure gold lay across the ocean. They didn't believe him, they mocked him. But he spoke to King Charles V in the only language the monarch understood, the language of figures and power. He didn't ask for soldiers, he asked for a piece of paper, a license to plunder sealed with the royal crest. And the king believed him. In July 1529, Pizarro received his carte blanche, the Capitulation of Toledo, a document granting him the right to conquer Peru. In it, he negotiated the titles of governor and captain general for himself. For his partner and friend Almagro, he secured only the post of commandant of a dilapidated fortress. The battle in the corridors of power was won, and the first one he betrayed was his own. He didn't return alone. With him he brought his 4 brothers, Hernando, Juan, Gonzalo, and Francisco Martin, his own men. This was now a family enterprise. Diego de Almagro, who had invested his entire fortune and lifeblood into the venture, received the position of commandant of Tumbes fortress with an annual salary of 300,000 maravedis. Pizarro himself was granted 725,000 by the crown. For the priest de Luque, there was a recommendation for a bishopric, a mere piece of paper. All real power, all lands, and all future gold went to the Pizarro clan. Upon learning this, Almagro erupted in fury. He refused to go further, accusing his partner of fraud. The expedition, before it even began, was on the verge of collapse. It took all of de Luque's eloquence to make them publicly shake hands. But it was mere pretense. The foundation of their alliance was poisoned. Now they were bound not by friendship, but by greed and mutual hatred. He left behind no grand laws, no flourishing cities. Lima, founded by him, became a capital built on the bones of another empire, and the gold, for which he scorched a continent, flowed into Spain, bringing him nothing but a bloody death at the hands of his own partner's son. But herein lies the main paradox of his story. A man who couldn't write his own name created a myth that proved more enduring than stone and more lasting than gold. His legacy is not wealth, it's an idea, a terrifying and seductive idea that one man, driven solely by the desire to crush the world that once crushed him, is capable of burning an entire civilization to ashes. He proved that the law of the strong is the only one that truly matters. And this echo, this ghost of an illiterate swineherd, still roams the continent, built upon his boundless audacity.